This is an atmospheric and psychological horror experience. We take on the role of Alexei, who is hiding from pursuers in a place filled with ghosts of the past. In this village, familiar from his childhood, it comes alive with his memory, frightening grandmother's tales, carefree childhood days, and an encounter with the nightmares hidden in the dark forest. Will this place prove to be our salvation or our damnation? Grandma Rita, where silence reigns, unlike the noisy cities. In the darkness that swallows the light, and among the dense forests near the village, a secret hides. People whisper tales about a creature living in the dark forest. This is the story of Banebush, a mighty leshy. Leshies are, in general, creatures of the forest, right? I'm not too up on lore, cryptid lore, I guess it would be. I think a leshy is like a forest deity. Few have ever faced him directly. Yet anyone stepping into the thicket feels his presence in every trembling leaf, in every creak of the trees. Oh, this is so pretty. Beasts hide in their burrows, birds fall silent, and trees bow to the forest's master at the sound of his ancient roots moving. Everyone's blood runs cold in his presence. He was feared more than any creature. That's why he's called Banebush. Oh. This is him. Look, he's here. I haven't played too many games with this crazy monochromatic visual style, but the red is new and it's really foreboding. It is already playing tricks on my brain. Sometimes as you wander the forest, you hear creaks and cries. Those are restless souls still roaming among the oaks, seeking peace for their wrongs against the leshy. He's gone. Leshy's gone. For centuries, villagers passed down legends of Banebush, about how he drove travelers mad, leaving them lost in the forest, and his terrible deeds. Anyone who disrespected his realm faced his savage wrath and became food for worms among the ancient trees. Oh, Banebush! Fear Banebush, child! Banebush, please. Leshy, please. And if you meet him, run without looking back. Lyoshka. So what? He still roams our forests? Just listen. Ooh. During the bloody times of the Patriotic War, our village fell on hard times. Bandits began raiding and tormenting the villagers. The strong men who could have resisted the hooligans were taken to the front. Only boys and young lads were left with the girls, no one to defend the village, so those scoundrels ran amok. They took the last dishes, stripped our village to the bone. Only one brave boy decided to help the village. He ventured deep into the forest to find Banebush. Our village was part of his domain, so he should protect it if properly asked. He was ready to do anything to drive those cursed outsiders from the village. For better or for worse, the boy found the leshy. Oh, he is horrifying. No one knows the outcome of their meeting. Some say Banebush took the boy under his protection, turning him into a wild wolf. In his new form, the brave boy tore apart all of the marauders. But others claim Banebush destroyed the poor boy to ensure no one disturbed his solitude. It doesn't matter who thinks what. What matters is that neither the boy nor the marauders were ever seen again. What an introduction. Chapter 1. I'm loving this so far. Oh, this is like way more modern day. Like a bus. In my childhood, Grandma told many stories. The ones about forest spirits and local folklore were my favorites. I will always remember her tales with warmth. I especially loved the stories about the evil Leshy, Banebush, who, according to legend, lived in the nearby woods. Grandpa often jokingly scared me, saying Banebush would come at night and drag me into the forest if I didn't dig in the garden or misbehaved. A frightening yet truly wonderful and carefree childhood in the village. I miss it. After Grandma's death, I inherited her house. Sometimes I feel ashamed that I didn't take care of it. I went once to handle the paperwork, but then never found the time. I'd like to sell it, but who wants an old ramshackle hut in the middle of nowhere? Who would have thought? But now, this house has become more useful than ever. It's no secret that getting involved in criminal schemes can lead to serious trouble. I didn't think it would happen to me this time. Oh, what are we doing? Who are we in all this? What nefarious acts have we been up to? I can only hope that Foeman and his thugs won't find me here. Oh, we're a little runaway. To lose a package of bagged drugs weighing a couple of kilograms. Okay, so we're in the drug ring. Fucking awesome. I went to pick up the goods outside the city. Everything was calm and smooth. I arrived at the spot, dug up what I needed, and headed back along the same route. But on the way back, a car cut me off. Clearly, this didn't bode well. Before I could understand anything, I saw 3 hulking men stepping out of a black car with tinted windows. Oh. Dude, I am loving this art. Of course, with a gun to your head, anyone would hand over the package of drugs without argument. My hide's worth more to me. I'm ready to swear this was a setup by Foeman. Either way, I'm in deep trouble. I know full well how couriers are treated in these situations. Okay, so we're going to hide out at our grandmother's old house deep in the woods to get away from our drug trafficking masters? What you call them masters? Bosses? Friends? I don't know about friends. Go to the police? What's the point? What would you tell them? That someone stole your drugs? Perfect. What a fairy tale life. I just hope no one knows where I am. I left most of my things in the city. There didn't seem to be a tail. I need to lay low. The road from Moscow took about 6 hours. Maybe I can get some sleep. Yeah, a hell of a line of work to be in. If anything goes wrong, what are you going to do? You can't tell nobody. You're forced to retreat to the woods, to your grandmother's humble abode. It felt strange coming back here after so many years, as if I had been avoiding this place all along. During my absence, the village became completely abandoned. In my childhood, it seemed brighter, and there were more people. Now there's almost no one left here, maybe a dozen old folks living out their days, and me running away from my problems. Interesting. Very interesting setup here. I quickly found the road. In childhood, my neighbor friend and I often raced from Grandma's house to the bus stop. It seems this path is forever etched in my memory. The house looked old, but stood sturdy despite years of loneliness. I just want to admire. Can you see my cursor? Can you see this? Yeah, you can see this. Okay. I just want to admire, look how haunting this forest is. Like the smoky kind of particle effect, giving it the depth, but also just that eerie, like valley kind of vibe. This is just such a striking scene, even to only be like with red saturations, reds and blacks. It's just, I can see this image so vividly in my brain. Beautiful, beautiful art design. The roof sagged slightly, but looked reliable. The paint had peeled off, revealing the wood, darkened by time. Yeah, this house needs long and expensive repairs. I'm afraid it'll cost more than the house itself. Ooh, and we got options. Nice. I love this. I tell you what, let's look around a little bit first. I need to see how this works, actually. Okay, so this is just all my text dialogue up to this point. After skirting the, so this is what I have now, right? Yep. All right. I haven't played too many of these games with the. I know this is a kind of a popular like visual novel style system here, but this is my first time messing with it. So, ooh, look at the crow. Hey, buddy. After skirting the property a bit, I reached the backyard. On the crooked structure that once served as the base of a scarecrow, a raven sat motionless. Raven, my bad. We are not cut from the same cloth. It was frozen like a stone gargoyle and didn't flinch at my presence. With a tinge of sadness, I noted that the bird, monotonously blinking its eyes, was the only living soul I'd encountered since getting off the bus. The entire plot was a muddy plain washed out by recent rain. What a dump, I thought as I looked at it. There used to be a big garden here, tended with elderly persistence by Grandma and Grandpa. Everywhere grew fragrant mint and lemon balm, which Grandpa used to brew aromatic tea. Looking at the remnants of my grandparents' once glorious garden, I realized it died when its owners passed away. That is a rather odd sight to see. Like, I don't know why just a knife and a stump would be weird, because it's just a knife and a stump, right? But it's like being in a zone, in an area so familiar to you that has just been assaulted, like brutalized by time. Everything's run down, no one's around, it's all abandoned. To see that still standing, I don't know, it's just so like striking against the background of everything else going on here. I shifted my gaze to the old stump that, as I recalled, Grandpa used for chopping firewood. Looking closer, I noticed something sticking out of it. I walked closer. Yes, let's approach, why not? An old rusty knife was stuck in the stump. I squatted and examined it closely. A couple of cracks in the time-darkened handle and a noticeably dulled blade in some places. Could it be useful to me out here in the wilderness? Uh-huh. Why not? Like, why wouldn't you? You're in a new, uncomfortable environment. Do you take the knife with you or just leave it be? Worst case scenario, what if you leave it and then you turn around later and see, oh, the knife's gone from the stump? You know what I mean? Not taking chances with that. I'm just going to take it with me. I pulled the knife out of the soaked wood and weighed it in my hand. It was lighter than it looked at first glance. It might come in handy. Yes, better keep this with me. I didn't find anything else interesting around the house, just dirt, boards, and dry overgrowth everywhere. I didn't want to linger outside any longer. All right, we'll go in the house. Ooh, that's good. The door yielded to my efforts with a loud creak. The influx of air stirred the dust, making it swirl around the entire room. Everything looked as if time had stopped from the moment I was last here. Oh, okay, I thought those were just eyeballs staring at me. No, these are things I can look at. All right, let's look at the photos. Let's reminisce. On the wall, in an ornate wooden frame, hung a photograph of Grandma Rita. Her face in the photo, taken on a photocore? I'm sure someone, you guys are always so smart, I'm sure someone knows what that is. Yeah, but me, I don't know, was calm, with a faint trace of fatigue. There was nothing special about this photo except for the quiet sadness of days gone by. Okay, let's check out the TV. On the shelf stood an old TV with a large crack on the screen. As far as I remember, it didn't work. Father accidentally broke it when we were sorting through things in the house after Grandma's death. Back in the early 2000s, Mom and Dad bought it for the elders, spending part of their savings. I remember us all sitting together in front of it, listening to Grandpa's swearing as he adjusted the antenna cable to get signal. Now, the TV was just a gloomy witness to past joys, silent and covered in dust. Gas stove. On the stove, covered in a thick layer of greasy dust, stood an old kettle with worn spots on its body. Grandpa used to brew fragrant morning tea for Grandma and me, made from carefully grown and harvested garden herbs, mint, lemon balm, and oregano. Seems like an odd stack up for tea, but maybe good? I don't know. I remember during one of those tea times, Grandma was baking something delicious in the oven while telling me how Dad and Grandpa spent an entire day bringing this stove from a neighboring town. That was right after Grandma complained to Grandpa that her stone stove had cracked. At that time, gas was just being installed in the village, and the stove became a new wonder of technology for her, as she liked to say. I looked around the room that opened before me, feeling how the house no longer felt as familiar as it once did. This was no longer the cozy summer retreat where I used to spend my time with great pleasure. Peeling walls, dust everywhere, a greasy bedspread from the perestroika era, and the smell of mold. I managed to pay for electricity and gas in the city. There's enough food for tonight, and tomorrow I can go to the village store. After all, the house had everything needed to lay low for a while. It's so weird, like, I don't know, I feel like I was just ripped from the era that we were in, like all the description of everything, and then to just pull up a smartphone, it's like, I don't know, it feels weird. The time was 8:31 p.m., 2 bars of signal, July 5th. And you see these missed calls from Foman, so this is who we're running from. Foman MSK. I don't know what that is. And of course, a couple of missed calls from my friends. Maybe I should turn off the phone, just in case. Though I doubt Foman would think to track me through my phone. I hope that's us. Alright, that's us. Okay. The bed, which had miraculously survived all of this time, creaked. Old springs were felt beneath the thick fabric. What a dump, I thought. In my childhood memories, the house really looked better. It's the second time we've called it a dump. It was alive. It's hard to imagine how my grandparents lived their whole conscious lives here. But I think they would have been happy anywhere together. Mom said that when Grandpa died, Grandma took it really hard. Her health quickly deteriorated, and she refused to go to the hospital in the city, no matter how much Mom insisted. Less than a year after Grandpa's death, Grandma passed away. I hope they're happy together now. I need to stop thinking about sad things. It's depressing enough already. Stop ruining an already lousy mood. Maybe I should have some tea. Ignite? The flame ignited. Looks like the gas is on. Sitting on the couch. This is the bed. I think he called it a bed. Sitting on the bed. Better make some tea. Gets up. Lights the flame. Time to take a nap. You know what I mean? Like, what are we doing? Damn, it's all such a blur. Thoughts about the bastards I'm hiding from wouldn't leave my mind. How long can I stay holed up in this dump, like a mouse? A month? A year? And if they find me, then what? It's clear they won't listen to me. First, they'll break my fingers, then toss me off a bridge into the river. Maybe they'll give me a chance to work it off, and then I'd have to slave away for them for free for who knows how long. Easy money turned into problems I don't know how to fix. In endless attempts to figure out how to cover the loss, I achieved nothing. My savings were around 90 grand, earned in my spare time. Of course, that's not enough to pay them off or replace the goods, and I don't have the right connections. The package delivery coordinates were given anonymously. The only person I know is Pasha Foman. Oh, that's our boss. A recruiter in this business. And incidentally, a 2-meter tall boxer and enforcer. Oh, great. Now I regret abandoning my attempt to succeed in tech repair, but back then it was a struggle to make ends meet. I started to drift off to sleep. Gas is still going. We ignited that puppy. One by one, childhood images came to mind. This is the village. Are you cows? That's a cow. This is a goat, right? Yeah, it's a goat. Children's laughter, bright sunlight, happiness, and no responsibilities. My biggest fear back then was Grandma scolding me if I didn't come home before dark. If only I could stay in that moment, I'd never have ended up in the situation I'm in now. Unfortunately, time doesn't lie and life moves on. It's true, you always end up longing for the things you had, but you don't long for them until they're unobtainable. It is a harsh reality. I dreamt of the football field that was the pride of our village. Sturdy goals, even with nets, just like real football players. As kids, we could play football on that field all day long. Friendship, laughter, gum, fresh air. And in the evening, Grandma waited at home with warm tea and the most delicious food in the world, made with love. In the dream, a memory appeared as if it were real. One evening in midsummer, I decided to take a shortcut through the forest to Grandma's house. The local boys said you could noticeably shorten the route if you went straight through it without turning. I was running late for dinner because of an overly long game of football. Oh no. The Banebush. The forest surrounding our village was very dense and impenetrable. It rustled with the many voices of nature as if trying to drown out the sounds of village bustle. Grandma and Grandpa never let me wander through it, warning me I'd get lost and a wolf would take me away. Interesting call to the wolf. If you remember the story from the beginning, the Leshy and the wolf, they think maybe the Leshy turned the boy into a wolf. Interesting they would use the wolf as like a deterrent. I moved straight ahead, confident I was heading in the right direction. The sunlight filtered through thick branches, casting a play of light and shadow on the ground. The forest sounds grew more eerie. I began to feel as if someone was watching me. Y'all keep your eyes peeled now. There really could be someone watching me here. Ooh, we can move the scene a little bit with the mouse. I didn't even notice that. The thicket grew denser around me, and I started to realize I'd been walking way too long, even though the boys said it wasn't far. Wandering along forest paths and aimlessly weaving between trees, I completely lost my way. I'm lost! Am I going to die in the forest? I thought, on the verge of tears. Oh God. Oh, choices. Eeny, meeny, miny. We're going left. We're not leaving this to chance. Oh, there's multiple? Like, okay. Can I just be silly and go left constantly and walk in a circle? All right, you know what I'm going to do, actually? I went left already. I'm going to go back right. And now I'm just going to go straight. The boys said go straight. So here I go. Straight as an arrow. Through the woods. Don't mind the creaking. You just keep going, buddy. Are we making any progress? Hello? Uh-oh. The dense grove stretched endlessly. The crunch of dry leaves echoed underfoot, and the air was filled with the forest scents. I took a deep breath, hoping to catch the scent of pine needles and fresh moss. But a stench appearing out of nowhere sharply hit my nose. Is that a stinky leshy? I grimaced and held my breath, peering into the thicket. Oh my God, I was actually peering. Ooh! Suddenly, a dark and terrifying hunched figure leapt out of the forest. A monster wrapped in roots like armor materialized among the trees and stared straight at me. My heart pounded out of my chest and a long scream escaped my mouth. I already did that. I don't need to do that again. Without realizing it, I bolted with all my strength. I leapt over obstacles, scratched myself on bushes, anything to keep from stopping. My lungs felt like they would burst, but I kept running. Run without looking back. The cat, turn off the kettle. Damn, that scared the hell out of me. Alexi! We are Alexi. Yeah. My first reaction to the dream slipped out aloud. What a load of crap. I had almost forgotten about that incident. Back then, crying and scratched up, I ran home shouting, "Grandma, I saw the Banebush in the forest!" After my outburst, Mom gave her a hard scolding, saying her scary tales were driving me crazy. It seems like it was after that incident that I started having nightmares so often. So maybe Mom was right. Without Grandma's creepy stories, I might have been less jumpy. I long ago convinced myself that back then, my overactive imagination mistook a tree stump for a monster. I still don't know what I saw that day, but one image always remains in my memories of it. Aleshi, just as Grandma described in her tales, stood in the middle of the forest staring at me with its red eyes. Oh my God, this is going to be a problem. Whenever I do a lot of reading, like a lot of narrative, emotional reading, I get very, very sucked into the story because I like it. It's fun. But I get so sucked into the story that my senses are like heightened. I get freaked the hell out of the smallest things. Oh, this is going to be a ride. My thoughts were interrupted by a sharp knock on the window as if someone had thrown a stone at it. Foeman? They couldn't have tracked me, could they? No, Foeman shouldn't even know about this place. Unless... he tracks me through my phone? No, that's just paranoia. I don't want to cut myself off completely. I need to check what it is. Oh God. Let's see, what do we got? Hello? There was nothing outside the window, just the yard as usual, just run down. If life gets better, I'll definitely tidy this place up. My grandma and grandpa really loved this place. I need to pay my respects to my departed relatives. Oh my God. Okay. What is this, a messenger hour? Are we going to Hogwarts? Where are you flying, you crazy bird? Totally lost it, scaring me like that, you lunatic. This kind of stress could send me to an early grave. City or here, it's all a madhouse. He dropped something, didn't he? Didn't he give me like a note? I need to relax, pour some tea, and eat something. I cleared the table and started preparing my first dinner in the village in a long time. What the hell is that? I pulled out bagels and a couple of candies from my backpack, hastily bought in a kiosk near the station. I brewed myself some green tea with mint. Funny, it looked just like it did in my childhood. Those were good times, even though last week wasn't so bad. Pushing away gloomy thoughts, I took a sip from my mug, imagining it was the same tea Grandpa used to brew for me as a child. But alas, the taste was far from the same. I felt a little better after my bagels and pocket candy. But I couldn't sleep peacefully without making sure another bird wouldn't fly into my window at night. It was already dark outside. I looked around, trying to spot that crow, but there was no one in sight. The same overgrown yard and the dense forest with trees swaying gloomily in its shadows. After a long day and a warm drink, I felt sleepy. Tonight, I could really use a good rest. But as always, anxious thoughts crept into my mind before sleep. Oh. A coffin with my body slowly lowers into the grave. Each thud of earth on the lid sounds like a final heartbeat. I'm gone. Just cold and silence remain. My body will dissolve into this earth, decay, and become food for the worms. My mom will stand at the grave, her eyes swollen from tears, unable to believe her only son is now in this wooden box. Will she think it's some mistake? That I'll rise in any moment to hug her? What will I leave behind? Everything that seemed important will turn to dust and rot with me. I will be forgotten. Everything I did, good or bad, it will all be swallowed by the earth. Someday, we all will return to the dirt. Very like existential crisis we're having here. It sounds a little creepy. Things are a little like darker than normal. In the dead of night, something suddenly yanked me out of my sleep. The village's nighttime silence was defiled by an incessant, nerve-wracking buzzing. A stubborn fly, as if choosing me as its nighttime victim, ruthlessly disturbed the peace. Persistently trying to get into the house, it seemed to be testing my patience. Please, no more birds. I got up from the bed and looked out the window at the silhouettes of the dark forest swallowed by night. The stubborn fly incessantly crawled on the glass. I stood watching the insect, feeling anxiety creep over my mind for no apparent reason. Oh God! Oh God! Knock some more! Beat it! Oh! Oh! That was him! Wasn't it? I think that was the Leshy. Chapter 2! Dude, I am loving this so much. Not only are we fighting and coming to grips and terms with the things that we've done, like our past, realizing that like we kind of suck, right? Like we live this life of crime, and we can't go to the authorities, and we're already at the end of our ropes, and there's nothing we can do. There's no one who can help us. We're not really blaming anyone else but ourselves in this situation, but we're starting to reminisce on the times when things weren't so bad. And especially coming back to this house is really setting that kind of like that dread where he's dreaming of death and like, what will I leave behind? Who am I? Like, will I be forgotten? Dreaming of a time when things were better, when things were simpler, when he was a child, when he loved being here and feeling like he mattered and everything meant something. So really toying with those themes pretty heavy very early on. Chapter 2. Was that all a dream? The fly thing, maybe? This ancient mattress feels like it was specifically designed to destroy my back. Okay. As usual, I woke up drenched in cold sweat, thanks to another stress-induced nightmare. Well, no comfort, but I am alive. Fair trade, I guess. Outside the window, it was a gray and overcast day. Yeah, doesn't look like anything good will happen today, but I'm used to that. Nice, get our morning stretches in. Reminder at home. Maybe we all should do some stretching. Stretching's good for you. Come on, everybody, get your hands up. Get your hands up in the air. All right, that's enough of that. After stretching a bit, I decided to take a walk around this godforsaken village. I kept thinking about the local store. Hopefully, it hasn't closed yet. Otherwise, I'd have to rely on my childhood survival skills and go stealing apples from abandoned lots. How simple and carefree it would be to wander around looking for dubious food, if not for my current less-than-legal affairs. But who am I without them? I need to stock up on food for a couple of days and see what's going on around here. Maybe I'll run into some locals, get the news, and find out how life has changed in this corner of the world since I was last here. All right, time for adventure. The early morning in this backwater is wrapped in an eerie calm, as if everything here is already dead, not just asleep. The air is fresh, as if it was just washed with fabric softener, and cold. It cuts straight to the bone. For July 6th, it was unusually cold, almost jacket weather. Still, there was something about this morning scenery that momentarily brought back a taste of life. It felt like I was 12 again. I remembered how, as kids, we'd run around here from early morning, darting between houses with the neighbor boy, under the grumbling shouts of old folks and the barking of dogs from other yards. Oh yeah, breathe it in. The air filled my lungs, and my head even spun slightly from its freshness. The scent of grass and damp earth surrounded me. It felt pleasant. It was unusual to breathe so easily, not as usual with city dust and grime. There is something indescribable about that clean, fresh mountain air. I can agree, Alexi. Walking through the quiet village, I seemed to slow down myself, adapting to its rhythm and leisurely pace of life. The silence and calm around me unintentionally made me reflect on the past and ponder the future. I looked at the empty windows and peeling walls. People used to live here, but now everything is crumbling, as if mocking my memories. Now there was only decay and an oppressive sense that the past was irretrievably gone. I was almost at the store when my gaze caught on a house to the left. Once a sweet old lady lived there, a darling granny. She always sat by her house offering us apples if we could show her where the Big Dipper was in the sky. Of course, we didn't know where the Big Dipper was and just pointed randomly at the sky. Granny didn't seem to care. She gave us apples anyway, chuckling to herself. Now her house was completely dilapidated, overgrown with bushes. But the apple tree behind her house was still standing. Maybe I should pick a couple of apples for breakfast. At least I'd save some money. My stomach was already growling with hunger. It was time to decide where to get food today. To the right was the store, where I figured I could grab a bite, assuming there was anything left inside. To the left was an abandoned lot with a crooked fence, behind which the apple tree stood. I stopped, pondering where to go. I'm gonna go to the apple tree. Given our surroundings, but there could be the chance to meet somebody in the shop. I think in my situation, I would definitely go to the shop. But then people would know I'm there. What if Foreman comes and he starts asking the shopkeep, hey, you seen any outsiders here lately? I'm going apple tree. Let's go. Let's just keep our illegal activities running, right? Up close, the plot looked even worse. Windows streaked with grime, trash everywhere, bushes and thickets. It seemed no one had set foot here for years. Right in front of the fence stood an apple tree, probably the same one that the funny old lady used to pick apples for us. Despite the overall decay of the garden, the tree looked lush and beautiful. Some branches even had something growing on them. I stepped closer, treading carefully on the ground, glancing around furtively. The crooked fence with its rotten boards seemed to plead, "Don't touch me." But I wasn't planning to stop. On one of the upper branches, I spotted an apple, seemingly almost ripe, yellow with a slight red blush. Looks pretty red to me. It's pretty high. I hope I don't fall. But since I'm already here, there's no turning back. Oh, there really is no turning back. Okay, let's climb the fence. I placed my foot on the edge of the fence and leaned on a board, which immediately creaked nastily, but still held on for now. Oh, we're so close. Come on. I reached out to the tree, my fingers almost brushing the coveted apple. The fence beneath me creaked, one board already starting to wobble. Just a little more. Just a little more. Oh, pluck that, baby. Oh, I didn't know this was a timed event. Goodness. Click, click, click. Come on. Did we get it? Realizing I couldn't reach the apple, I jumped off the crumbling fence. I think if I'd hesitated for even a second, I would have fallen with it. Breaking my neck over an apple is the last thing I need. I think the store will be a safer bet. Nah, you got a lack of commitment, Alexi. We had that apple. Faux show. I stopped 5 steps away from the store, which looked almost comically like an island of nostalgia in this forgotten place. Old but sturdy, the peeling groceries sign above the door seemed inviting despite its worn appearance. The windows were intact, and through their cloudy panes you could see shelves and displays filled with something. The building's age didn't seem dilapidated. Instead, it gave it character, speaking of quiet confidence and resilience against time. The air around was filled with the same familiar sense of the village. For a moment, I felt like a kid again, coming to the store for ice cream and a waffle cone. Closed. There has to be someone in the only store in the village. Hey, anyone there? The sound of my own voice felt deafening in the silence. I kept tugging at the handle, not giving up on opening the door. Oh! Hey! Someone called out behind me, and I flinched so hard I almost lost my balance. Oh, there is someone! Young man, why are you banging on the door? Sorry. I thought the store was still open. It is open, just no one's inside. Do you need to buy something? Yeah, I wanted to see what you've got. Well, come on, I'll show you what we've got. I haven't seen you around here before. You a visitor? I nodded in agreement. What's your name? I'm Alexi. I introduced myself a bit awkwardly. Ah, Alyoshka, huh? You want anything? I gritted my teeth. I hate being called Alyosha. Let's just go with Alexi. Well, Alexi. Name's Stepan. Laptev Stepan Volkovich. Pleased to meet you. I'm probably going to butcher a lot. I probably already have butchered a lot. Like, you already know this, but I'm doing my best, okay? Whatever rolls off the tongue the best, that's what I'm going with. I shook hands with my new acquaintance, who seemed to be a local, though I didn't remember him at all. Well, come on, what are you standing around for? I'm waiting on you, old man. The door's locked. Stepan took out a bunch of keys, felt around for the right one, and calmly unlocked the store. I followed him inside and found myself in a dark room. Hold on, Alexi, just a second. What's he fiddling with in the dark? Looking for a sturdy stick, too. I'll turn on the light, just a moment. Oh, it's relatively normal in here, okay. You from the city? Yeah, from Moscow. I muttered reluctantly. I'm not used to sharing personal details with strangers, but Moscow is so huge that this information didn't really mean anything. Oh, really? So what are the young folks in the capital up to these days? Do you have a profession, at least? The question was asked with such intensity that for a moment, I felt like a schoolboy being called to the principal's office. However, I decided to not dodge and answered with partial truth. Yeah, I studied to be an electrician in college. I smirked to myself. No way I'm telling him about my actual profession. Oh ho, an electrician! That's a useful trade. You know, my radio here recently stopped working. Maybe you could take a look at it, electrician. I can't pay you for the repair. No money to spare these days, but I'll treat you to some tea. What a gig, I thought to myself with irony. I wasn't ready to return to my real problems just yet, so I wasn't in a hurry. As long as I can remember, fixing various devices always came easily to me. Nothing too complicated, of course, but I could handle an old radio. I remember back when I was studying to be an electrician, I went to a couple of practical trainings out of pure curiosity. The job wasn't hard, maintenance of an apartment building, electrical panels. Once, I even found a stash that a courier colleague had seemingly hidden quite securely. I glanced at Stepan again, then shifted my gaze to the old radio sitting on the ledge of the table. Why not help the old man? The radio's probably one of the very few forms of entertainment here. All right, let me take a look. Yes, it's over there. Go ahead and take a look. Come on, Alexei. As I expected, an old radio, clearly made back in the Soviet Union. My grandparents had one like it. I think if I tried, I could probably find it somewhere in their attic. Honestly, I think fixing it shouldn't be too difficult. Let's see what we've got here. Oh. Okay. All right. Boom, boom. Hold on. I'm working. I'm working here. Oh, man. Okay, so it's got something like this, right? And, like, that's got to be like that. I don't know what these switches are. I need to connect this. Only way to connect that is with that. That's the only connection, which means this has to have power. I think all the switches have to have power, perhaps. Okay, this is looking good. This is looking really good. Boom, 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 boom. Boom, boom. Yes. No. Like that. Then this doesn't have power. 1, 2, 3. Okay, hold up. Here we go. Yes. I think. Why do I keep saying yes like I have any idea what I'm doing right now? Has to go here. Because this is the only way you can have everything connected. But you could have it this way. Everything connected. Okay. Everything's connected here. And this. Oh, I did it! Nice! I was totally missing the point that everything had to have a cap on it. Like it's not very clear that if the pipe end is open or if it's closed or whatever. But anyway, regardless, I figured it out. Looks like it's ready. Time to test it. Tiptoe through the... Oh, look, it's working. Well, you've got golden hands, a real craftsman, I can tell. You know, this radio isn't just an ordinary one. One time, there was a funny story about it. My cat back then, Vasya, little black devil he was, and I closed the store and sat down to dinner. Well, sort of. I sat down at the table and gave the cat some soup in his bowl. I turn on the radio and they're talking about some kind of dance music. I hear Vasya start meowing, and suddenly, as the music starts playing, he gets up and starts dancing on his hind legs. I laughed so hard. Later, I tried playing music for him again, but he just gave me a lazy look and went to sleep. Stepan looked at me as if he was gauging my reaction to his story, but I was just sitting there, confused. Thank you, Alexei. We won't die of boredom now, that's for sure. It's nothing. I gave him a crooked smile and spread my hands. Well, as promised, let's go. I'll pour you some tea. You'll tell me how city folk live these days. I hadn't eaten anything since morning. The old man seemed nice enough. I figured I wouldn't say no to some tea. I nodded in agreement. Well, that's wonderful. Let's go. Walking behind Stepan in another room, I couldn't shake the intrusive image of a cat dancing on its hind legs. Go, Vasya. Oh, man. Oh, is this in Steppen's house now? What an odd array of things. Let's look at the bottle. Is that moonshine? I thought. It looked like regular village hooch, but with the added bonus of a couple of flies floating inside. Just looking at the bottle made me queasy. Steppen probably forgot about it ages ago. Photo. An old photo in a crooked frame, clearly not hung yesterday. Who is she? Probably Steppen's mother or wife. She looked as stern as my college instructor. Boar taxidermy. A boar's stuffed head on the wall. I never understood how anyone could like that. It looks silly with those bulging eyes and exposed tusks. It's clear no one has touched it for years. So much dust. And a toolkit. The tools hang in a neat row, looking more like decorations. It's obvious some haven't been used in ages. The rust and dust speak for themselves. Steppen probably used it to do a lot of handiwork back in the day. I cautiously surveyed the storage room of the shop. The air was thick with the musty scent of wood, sweet mold, and some kind of pickled goods. Steppen, visibly excited by the unexpected company, set about brewing tea. Steppen sat down at the table. He looked at me, barely holding back the questions that were about to burst out of him. It was clear that the old man didn't often have guests and was genuinely happy to chat with me. So, how do you like it here? Not many folks from the city wander this way. I noticed how Steppen tried to hide his awkward excitement behind a smile. I smiled back, deciding to keep the conversation going. Yeah, it's really different here. Quiet. Homely. Cows, goats. I listed the first things that came to mind. You rarely see this kind of thing in the city. Steppen nodded, lost in thought, still holding his cup. So, what brings you here? I paused to think about how to answer him. Obviously, I couldn't tell him I was hiding here from some shady characters. He might report me to the cops. I could just say I came to my grandparents' house, or make something up like I'm here to buy a house. Let's see, if I'm Alexi, if I'm running away, if I'm trying to hide, I don't know that I would say looking to buy a house. I would probably say grandmother's house, because they don't necessarily know anything. I'd probably be honest in this situation. I'm here to tidy up my grandparents' house. Which ones? Steppen seemed to ponder, sifting through memories of the remaining elders in this backwater. I decided not to make him guess. They're not here anymore, with us. Margarita and Nikolai Pavlov. Oh, I see. So you're Rita and Kolya's grandson. Ah, they were wonderful people. I can still picture them in their youth. Young folks always flock to the cities, but here in the village, you know, it has its own charms. Rita and Kolya understood that better than anyone. Back in the day, we were really close friends with them. In winter, we sled like crazy, and in spring, some in the garden, others in the fields from morning till night. And when summer came, everyone relaxed, body and soul. Russian banya, fishing, all sorts of summer celebrations. Steppen paused and gave me a piercing look, as if trying to see if I understood what he was talking about. You testing me right now, Steppen? You testing me? By the way, today is going to be one of the most important ones. The annual sacrifice! The night of July 6th to 7th is Ivan Kupala night. If you didn't know, I didn't. We loved that holiday when we were young. The soul, as they say, longed for song. We jump over the bonfire and tell all sorts of spooky tales. They said that on Kupala night, devils crawled out of their holes. In our village, people always believed in all sorts of devilry. We were old believers. They were so scared you couldn't drag them into the woods by their arms and legs on Kupala night. Well, that sounds so pretty. I remember one of those nights the whole village was out celebrating again. The guys were singing songs and lighting fires, while the girls were, as usual, doing fortune-telling. They'd put flower crowns on their heads and run to the riverbank. They'd let the crowns float along the water to learn their fate. Wherever it drifted, that's where their groom would come from. If it washed ashore, no wedding that year. Well, that's all just folklore, of course. Your granny, Ritka, sent her crown down the river too. And can you believe it? It floated a little and then shot forward like Kupala himself was steering it. And right there on the other side was Kolyan. The girls started giggling right away, and Kolyan, clueless as ever, just barely managed to catch Ritka as she jumped into his arms. That same summer, your grandma and grandpa got married. What a strange tradition. Ah, they were good people. Well, never mind. Stepan's words hung in silence. Even the wind outside seemed to quiet. The story about Grandma and Grandpa, simple yet so vivid, really struck me. I'd seen them in old photos, younger, happier than I remembered. Were they really like that? Jumping over bonfires, weaving flower crowns? I suddenly felt a strange bitterness, realizing how little I actually knew about them. What would they say about me now? The thought planted itself deep, but I quickly brushed it aside to avoid diving further. Stepan let out a heavy sigh and continued. You know, Alexei, our village, sometimes it's like a fairy tale, I'd say. But not the kind with a happy ending. So you better be careful around here. I tensed up and raised an eyebrow, not hiding my surprise. What do you mean? Well, you see, a couple of years back, a family moved here from Moscow. They said they were looking for peace, quiet, and tranquility. So they arrived with 2 young sons in tow, and those rascals found no better pastime than to turn the whole village upside down. Every night their revelry made a racket like a festival, but there was no joy in it. We tried talking to them nicely, you know, but they couldn't care less. One Kupala night, they decided to have their own kind of fun. They dragged some girl from a neighboring village and headed to the river through the forest, where even locals hesitate to tread during the day. Oh God, there's a body. Oh no. They probably thought they'd find magic in our forests, or whatever you city folk are after. Night passed, and by morning they were nowhere to be found. The police searched the whole forest with dogs, but only found the girl by nightfall. They said she was scared to death, couldn't speak, just muttered and babbled incoherently. As for the boys, all that was left were a couple of bloodied scraps of clothing. It was like the earth had swallowed them whole. The district officer told me back then that those punks probably got the girl drunk and wanted to violate her. They dragged her into the forest, but no one could figure out what happened to them after that. They tried questioning the girl, but she couldn't say anything then or later. Her eyes kept darting around and she kept mumbling something endlessly. So they couldn't figure out anything back then. The investigation concluded later that apparently some forest beasts had mauled them. And to calm the villagers, they made our forester, Petrovich, set up traps in the forest to keep the beasts away from homes. Ooh. So they're tying it all back together to, like, I guess the Leshy and the spirituality of the village. This ain't no normal village. All those rituals and stuff that he's talking about, this seems like some like growing up in a cult town type stuff. I listened to Stepan's story with some tension. This was nothing like my grandmother's fairy tales. But somewhere deep in my subconscious, the image of Tavarik emerged, and my imagination instinctively tied the events to him. Tvarg, is that the Leshy? Is that the thing we saw? The Banebush. After all, encountering him in the forest years ago had convinced me that some fairy tales don't lie. Yeah, this is some crazy cult town. I brushed the thought aside and asked the first question that popped in my head. Maybe the Leshy took them? Bold question to ask, Alexei. Ooh, don't smile at me like that, Steppen. Maybe the Leshy took them, or maybe it was the beasts. That's for each person to decide what to believe and what to think. And the investigation will decide for itself what to write in the report. I think I've heard enough local tales for today. I really need to focus on figuring out how to solve my own problems. Time to head home. Stefan Wolfovich, thanks for the tea and for the talk. I should get going. I want to tidy up the house. Yes, of course. Go ahead. Thanks again for fixing the radio. If you need anything, feel free to drop by. Here, take some bagels. Have them with tea. My treat. Looked like there was a face on those bagels. They're just shadows, I guess. Without much thought, I grabbed the bag of bagels from the table. I didn't want to refuse and disappoint the old man. Besides, I originally came here for food. Thank you, and goodbye. Steppen kept beaming his trademark smile. I smiled back at him and stepped outside. Kitty! Vazva? What's up, Vaska? What's up, Vaska? Had your fill of roaming? Well, come on in. What are you standing out there for? Vaska. Well, that was quite the trip for some bread, I chuckled. I slightly scolded myself for spending the whole day listening to the strange old man's stories instead of tackling my real problems. Stories were interesting, but I had to return to my grim reality. Approaching my new home, I was already anticipating collapsing onto the creaky, prehistoric bed with a satisfied face. But fate, it seemed, had other plans. Oh! It's the boys! I think, maybe. Parked in front of my house was an old Vaz 2108 with 3 familiar faces inside. Shit. It was Pasha Fomin and his goons, Vazia and the third one. Can't remember his name. Uh-oh. Oh, they're here. Okay, direct confrontation. Stand your ground, Alexei. Well, hello there, villager. Yeah, hey, I replied, trying to hide my tension. I'm so screwed. So, what the fuck are you doing out here, Alyosha? Do you have any idea how much of a pain it was to come all the way to this backwater? How the hell did you even find me? Shut your fucking mouth and listen. If you'd work longer and more honestly, maybe you'd have figured out to stash your work SIM card up your ass. It was a phone. He tracked the phone. So, we promote you, send you on a big job, and you thank us by running off with our stuff. You know exactly what happens to smartasses like you. Foma, I had nothing to do with it. When I was transporting the stuff, a car cut me off, and some assholes with a gun took all your shit. What? You seriously think I'm that stupid? Foma, I've always done my job honestly. This all looks like a setup. Maybe you sent those bastards yourselves. Are you now trying to screw me over? Are you kidding me? Who are you doubting right now? You think it's hard for me to off you and bury you out here? No one's ever gonna find you here, dumbass. I'm not trying to act tough, Fomin. Calm down. How am I supposed to get you the stuff I don't have? I don't give a damn, you bitch. Do whatever you want. Give birth or shit it out. The situation was escalating. I clenched my jaw, feeling my racing pulse pounding in my temples. Ooh. This is a hot-headed dude. I don't think there's any, there's no talking this down. Let's just stay silent. Let's see what that does. Get me killed, probably. Oh, pacifism. Nice. Make sure the stuff's in my hands by morning. Try to run, and you won't be able to walk anymore. Vazian. Well, except to piss and shit yourself. Got it, Alyosha? I got it. Naturally. Ooh, what an intense encounter. The sound of the departing car's engine started the countdown. Bastards. Great hiding spot, Alyosha, I sarcastically praised myself. Now what? What if I sell the house and use the money to buy drugs to replace the lost shipment? No. Selling the house is a hassle. Finding a buyer would take forever, and at best, I'd get $100,000 out of it. Running isn't an option. They'll find me again, and then I'm really screwed. Shit! What do I do now? In despair, I grabbed my head. I wanted to tear out my hair, scream, break something, but none of that would help. The helplessness was driving me insane. Grandma? Grandma Rita, if the world turns its back on you, go to the forest. There you'll find either salvation or death. The forest is honest. I suddenly remembered my grandmother's words as clearly as if her voice were speaking right next to me. Yes, this could work. What if we lure the thugs to the forest and get the Leshy to beat their ass, and then all problems gone, solved by the forest? What if Grandma was right? What if there really is something out there? I saw it in that forest as a kid. I remember. If Tavarik is really out there, he'll either kill me outright or help me. If I'm screwed anyway, what difference does it make? There was always something strange about this place. The old folks' stories, the vanished people, the whispers in the forest. I looked out the window. The forest is honest, I kept repeating to myself, staring at the dark grove. Going there was madness, yes, but at least I'd have some kind of chance. There's no other way. A few minutes into the journey, and the trees closed in around me, as if blocking my path. Stepping forward was terrifying, but staying still was even worse. Ooh, I like that quote. To the forest. Chapter 3. Nice. Save a slot here. So far, the buildup is really, really good. We have this, there's the saying, like, stuck between a rock and a hard place. And then there's what we're going through. Our backs are absolutely pressed up against the wall here with nowhere to go, especially now that the guys know our location. And the only place we have to turn to is the forest. You know, the tales from our past, from our childhood, we were warned about them, but we've seen it. We've seen this creature. We've seen this powerful being. I guess I can see the logic there a little bit. Like, what's the worst that can happen? I'm gonna die anyway, so like might as well see what can come of this. So I think venturing into the forest is the right move. Did you guys listen to the text on the screen? I hope you did. I made myself a cappuccino. Admittedly, a very bad one. I got some new beans for Christmas, and you know, that first grind just missed. I just really missed. All right, back to the immersion. Oh, Leshy! Clouds, almost completely hidden by the dense canopy of trees, hovered over the endless forest expanses. Moss soaked with moisture spread underfoot like a soft carpet, muffling the sound of footsteps. The air, rich with the scent of soil and decaying leaves, was damp and heavy, settling in my lungs and clouding my mind. The whisper of leaves, the occasional snap of twigs underfoot, the distant cries of birds created the illusion of another dimension. Here, I felt like an insignificant human, an uninvited guest. This music is crazy. Thoughts about my past life. Oh, it's like, I don't know what it is about that music. It's giving me chills. Ugh. Thoughts about my past life slowly filled my mind. The endless struggle for money in a quiet corner of the metropolis where each new day brought new challenges. The life of a dealer, full of fear and the constant threat of disaster, poisoned the soul, exposing its flaws. I didn't even notice how I became a paranoid person who, on any ordinary evening, expected someone to break into my house. My imagination painted the faces of people whose lives were poisoned by my dealings, their eyes filled with desperate bitterness. Here in the depths of the forest, all of my past felt like a burden dragging me to the ground, to the realization that I had dug my own grave. Yeah, I mean, ultimately, that's what we're doing, right? Like, you can call us whatever you want, but we're soul searching right now. And we were forced to do it at the end, you know, when we didn't have a choice. We're literally looking death in the face anywhere we go, but we're looking back on our life and thinking like, yeah, I did this to myself. I put myself here. And think of all the lives that I've ruined. God, that weight must be unbearable. It's unfair. Why do I have to seek salvation now among these trees and darkness? What will the Banebush do if I find him? If the stories are true, he wasn't entirely merciless. After all, he didn't kill the girl from Stepan's story, who naively trusted the thugs from the capital. Maybe this Banebush only helped the innocent? And we are no innocent. If that's the case, I'm screwed, I chuckled. Thoughts about the Banebush and his possible protection no longer brought comfort. They only plunged me into new terror. What if he's not an ally at all, but another threat far scarier than any city gangsters? What if I just die here? I don't even know what's worse, surrendering to the cops or venturing into the forest at night to find the Leshy. What a fucking mess. I ventured deeper into the forest, which had already turned into a trap. I felt like I was in the jaws of a giant rabid dog, which were gradually closing, leaving less and less space to breathe. Every rustle, every creak of a branch made my heart skip a beat in fear. I remembered again how my grandmother, sitting by the stove, would quietly tell me her stories. There she is. Remember, Lyosha, the forest always watches, she would say, looking straight into my eyes. It knows all your thoughts, senses fear from a mile away. It feeds on it. Now her words echoed in my head like a warning. Having lost track of time and distance traveled, I tried to suppress the fear within. Suddenly, the deep silence of the forest was pierced by a plaintive howl. I froze. My heart began pounding twice as hard, threatening to burst out of my chest. Holding my breath, I tried to pinpoint where the sorrowful sound was coming from. The howl came again, more insistent this time, as if beckoning me. My heart pounded louder in my chest. An inner voice insistently whispered, "Wandering aimlessly through the forest won't get me anywhere." Obeying the call, I started moving, slowly drawing closer to the source of the sound with each step. More of the wolf and the leshy. Oh, he's caught in one of the traps. I pushed through the thicket and emerged onto a clearing bathed in pale moonlight. And there, in the moonlight, quivered the figure of a large black wolf. A trap had sunk deeply and mercilessly into one of its paws. Whimpering in pain and trembling in a hunched position, the wolf no longer tried to free itself. Its gaze, filled with suffering, pierced me. The animal seemed to hope for my help. Well, what a quest, I thought. I stood frozen, unable to steady the tremble in my hands as my emotions feverishly jumped from pity to fear. Gathering the remnants of my composure, I approached the wolf. Oh, wow. Ooh, man, this would be a tough decision. It's like, do I trust that the wolf is going to look at me as like, man, appreciate that, dude, I won't kill your ass. And I open it? Or would I just be like, yeah, good luck with that? I'm going to open it. Oh, God. Oh. I'm doing it anyway. The beast greeted me with a weak growl full of pain and warning. Fear gripped me tightly, paralyzing my movements, but I gathered the last shreds of courage and decided to act. All right, opening this trap barehanded isn't going to work. Good thing I kept the knife with me after all. Yes! Unless it just kills me, then no! Open. Oh! Okay, come on. I did it! My sweat-drenched hands barely held onto the knife as it slipped off the trap's mechanisms. The wolf jerked its paw and snapped its teeth, and I recoiled, barely maintaining my balance. The wolf's eyes looked at me with a mix of pain and human-like understanding, sending a chill down my spine. I need to pull myself together and try again. Come on, buddy. Come on. Got it. Oh! Oh, fuck. Oh, fuck. This is fucking wolf. Why the hell did I even approach it? I ran, feeling like prey being hunted by a predator. The last time I ran like this was as a kid in the same forest, fleeing Banebush. I leapt over roots, scraped myself on bushes, and caught dry branches across my face. I didn't know if the wolf was chasing me, but I didn't even think of stopping to check. It seems I dropped the knife near the trap in fear, and if I encounter the rabid wolf, I'll be unarmed. Fuck! At full speed, I ran onto a clearing and barely caught my breath when a tall, twisted figure appeared among the trees. I froze in another wave of terror, praying that the wolf had fallen behind and wouldn't sink its teeth into my back. There was no sound around, just my heart pounding with all its might. A creature resembling a twisted man was watching me and reaching out a hand in my direction. My sanity was slipping away, sinking along with my heart into my heels. God, he looks terrifying, haunting. For a while, I watched the silhouette that had frightened me, but it remained motionless. I slowly moved a little closer. What is that? What is that? Is he holding a mushroom? Stay calm. When I finally dared to approach, it became clear. It was just a tree stump. Is it? A nervous chuckle escaped my chest, trying in vain to shake off the tension. I looked closer at the unnaturally twisted tree trunk. On one of the branches, resembling an outstretched arm, hung a fly agaric mushroom. Its crimson hue reminded me of a cigarette ember glowing in the dark. A question echoed in my mind. How could it possibly end up on the branch, as if someone had hung it there just for me? Yeah, the forest seemed especially full of hints today. Am I supposed to eat it? Unexpectedly, for myself, I shouted out loud. My voice echoed through the forest and faded away without receiving an answer. Oh God, that is haunting. Decisions. Look, man, it's this or bagels and pocket candy. I'm going for it. In this scenario, one would assume this was put here for a reason by the powerful Leshy. Maybe to kill us. I don't know. But I'm going with it, baby. Oh, things are getting bad. Things are getting real bad. The bitterness of the fly agaric slid down my throat, its pulp reaching the walls of my stomach. The taste of earth and a bittersweet slice of the forest filled my insides. My consciousness slowly dissolved and the images of trees blurred before my eyes. Oh God. I wandered aimlessly through the forest, feeling each step reverberate as a pulse in my skull. The tree canopies closed above my head, their rustling growing louder and merging into a swarm of unnatural, oppressive sounds. The ground beneath my feet felt soft and damp like living flesh, while roots writhed, trying to entangle my legs. Hey! Someone yelled at me from the darkness, forcing me to stop abruptly. My head spun so much that I didn't realize when I had already turned towards the sound. Who could that be? Behind the trees, familiar figures began to emerge. Oh, it's these guys. Baring their teeth, they grinned predatorily at me as if I were prey. What the fuck, rat? Trying to lay low in the woods? I'll grind you into the dirt with this whole forest. We'll tear you apart and fertilize the ground with your guts. Got it? Nah, we'll slice you up so every beast in this forest gets a piece. And you'll howl like a beaten mutt. I heard their voices, vile and hoarse, creeping through the thicket. Each sound turned into a burning ember, painfully melting my brain. These creatures weren't human. I hated them to the point of trembling, to the icy venom coursing through my veins. Fucking bastards. Their teeth are actually really, jagged and stuff. I screamed and broke into a run, zigzagging between the trees just to stop seeing their faces. I ran for a long time, and when my lungs started burning from within, slowed to a walk. The feeling of an alien presence didn't go away. The shadows of the trees moved in sync with my steps, and I felt deep within that someone or something was always watching me from the depths of the thicket. Peering into the darkness, I saw my grandmother. Oh, she's looking a little worse for wear. I wanted to rush forward and hug her, but her face, distorted in a horrifying way, suddenly spoke in a quiet, raspy voice. Once a cowardly boy decided to run away from his troubles. He ventured into the depths of the forest to seek out the Leshy and ask for help. That night, inhuman screams could be heard from the other side of the forest. And what happened to him, Grandma? Ooh! Just listen! The Leshy slowly tore a bitch apart while he was still wheezing, and the wolves were feasting on whatever fell to the ground. Oh, God. I wandered recklessly through the dark thicket, sometimes walking, sometimes breaking into a run without regard for the path. I was lost in time and space. My consciousness was being crushed from within, and my legs trembled so much I could barely move them. The sound of the forest merged into a quiet whisper, creating a single vibration. Suddenly, from all sides, a heavy, creaky voice sounded. "Why did you come to me?" "Help! They want to kill me!" The Leshy, maybe? My plea sounded pathetic. My voice trembled and my breath came in ragged gasps. The forest was silent. Everything around grew quiet except for occasional drops of dew falling from the branches to the ground. These were the tears of other losers who had come here like me and couldn't make it back. The voice crackled again. "You're not the first to come to me. Many have sought salvation among my trees." "Did they find it?" That's a bad question. That's a bad question. My words dissolved into the air, and the forest only listened intently, in no hurry to answer. It is alive. The wind was its breath, its heartbeat to the rhythm of a woodpecker's strikes, its roots intertwined as veins, and millions of worms streamed as blood beneath the earth. "You've gone where neither your feet nor your soul should venture." That's because of the mushroom. "Here, blood soaks into the roots more easily than rain." The forest answered me with a rustle that sounded like laughter. The hairs on the back of my neck stood on end. "No one leaves here in one piece." "What are you talking about? What do you want?" Oh, he's more clear now. "It's approaching me." He looks a little more human than he did before. Oh! Standing before me was not the monster I had expected to see. He resembled an old man with a thin, twisted body like dry roots, and his skin was cracked like wood scorched by lightning. His eyes burned with a crimson fire, like embers in a dying campfire. His clothing was nothing more than rotting rags, except for a tattered red polka dot scarf on his arm. A black hollow gaped in his forehead, resembling the rotted cavity of a tree, oozing thick, dark sludge. It dripped onto the ground, its stench so overpowering it took my breath away. My stomach climbed towards my throat, the air around me filled with the stench of decay, and it became hard to even swallow. I stood, rooted to the spot, jaw slack, staring at the Leshy until his voice jolted me awake. "The eye." "What?" "Your eye, worm. A vile soul, but a sharp eye, if you've found me." When it dawned on me what he meant, my legs buckled and my vision darkened. Nausea rose to my throat and I barely held back the urge to vomit. "Maybe you need something else?" I whimpered the question in a pathetic attempt to bargain with the ancient forest spirit. I wanted to bolt and run, but my legs seemed rooted to the ground, leaving me unable to move. "An eye, or your life. Choose." Probably the eye, Alexi. I would think the eye. Let us pay the price for the protection of the Leshy. It only feels right? That's what we're here for. My hands jerked towards my face. The will to live tore me apart, screaming like a wounded animal, drowning out even the terror of what was about to happen. I could already feel his sharp, thorn-like fingers digging into my eye socket. I wanted to scream, to beg a god I never believed in, but the words stuck in my throat. All that remained was trembling and an all-consuming horror coursing through my veins. My mind simply refused to believe what was happening, but I had already made my choice. I stood there, unable to make a sound, and silently nodded in agreement, until the fear snapped me back. Oh! The pain was unbearable. The world around me exploded in red light. It felt as if a red-hot hook was driven into my eye socket and started pulling. I heard a squelching sound, like when something wet is torn away from something sticky. Oh, that's oddly vivid. Ugh. I felt nerves and veins tearing, the pulsating eyeball being wrenched from my skull. Warm streams of blood ran down my cheek, filling my nose and mouth, choking me with its metallic, nauseating taste. Through the veil of pain, I heard the screams of the creatures that brought me here. Their gut-wrenching cries, steeped in primal terror, pierced the forest. One of them screamed as if being torn apart from within. His voice broke into a rasp, replaced by a gurgling, wet sound as though his lungs had turned to a bloody pulp. Someone squealed like a pig at the slaughter, interrupted by the crunch of bones and tearing of flesh. I lay there listening to the Leshy tear these bastards apart, their lives fading one by one. At first, I wanted to cover my ears, but then I couldn't. I enjoyed hearing it. My lips stretched into a smile on their own, and my chest felt empty and light. I laughed loudly. Damn, I don't think we've learned a lesson in all this. 3 weeks later. Ooh, where are we at? This is new. Nothing else to interact with here. Ministry of Internal Affairs of the Russian Federation, case number 0707. Oh, guy with his eye ripped out. This has got to be me. Criminal case, Committee of the Russian Federation, date August 10th, 2004. Alexei, that's us. Following a report from residents, a patrol group arrived in a forested area on the outskirts. The bodies of 3 individuals showing signs of discovered. Foman Pavel and the other guys. We hadn't heard this guy's name, I don't think, but this was the other guy. All deceased displayed multiple stab wounds. That Smirnov was under the influence of narcotics caused by the consumption of hallucinogenic mushrooms. A crime scene investigation was conducted, including photography, fingerprint collection, and the gathering of physical evidence. At the crime scene, Smirnov's fingerprints were found on the knives and the personal belongings of the deceased. Blood traces leading from the body to the location where Smirnov was found matched his blood type. The presumed murder weapon, a sharpened fragment of wood, discovered directly next to Smirnov. The forensic psychiatric examination deemed Smirnov to be legally insane at the time of the crime. Based on the collected evidence, witness testimonies, the defendant's confession, and the results of the psychiatric examination, Smirnov Alexei is committed to compulsory treatment in a psychiatric prison. Okay, so they found everything. But we were accused of killing them. Ugh. The end. I like this. I love this story. This is so good. Endings gallery. 6 endings. Ooh, I would love to get all the endings. I feel like this is not a good ending. We just ended up in cuckoo jail. We ended up in psycho prison. Damn, I don't have any good save files. All right. I would love to find all the endings in this, so I'm gonna do that. Okay. So I'm not too familiar with these games, and I realize now that I probably should have been making save files at like various key points. It would have really sped this process up, but I'm just gonna kind of run back through it and do some of the stuff differently and see what happens, see where that leads me. Starting with the forest stuff, there was a lot of big choices that happened here. I just chose to leave the wolf, right? That's one of the biggest ones, and also the mushroom and all that stuff. So And run through all this, see what that changes down the road. No, I haven't completely lost my mind to die at the fangs of a wild beast just yet. I stepped back and, trying to turn my back on the wolf, trudged onward. Okay, so the wolf, we did not help. Sure, I felt sorry for the wolf, but I came here to help myself. My hide's worth more to me. I firmly pushed away unnecessary thoughts and kept wandering aimlessly. So, let's not answer the forest's call. So we said no to the wolf, and we're going to say no to the mushroom. No. No, thank you. No, this is too stupid even for me. I don't want to experience the full spectrum of forest hallucinations. For a moment, I imagined myself collapsing unconscious here among the trees, only to be found by locals either dead or foaming at the mouth. I grimaced and turned away. The forest stretched on endlessly, a labyrinth of identical tree trunks. I wandered for hours, glancing back at random landmarks, but none of them felt familiar. At some point, I decided to return to where I had seen the mushroom, but I couldn't even find that. It seemed the mushroom and the strange root had vanished into thin air, leaving only a sense of anger and helplessness. Well, this is crap. I exhaled, leaning against a tree to catch my breath before moving on. As the darkness gradually dissipated, the shadows that had me terrified vanished one by one, taking the last echoes of fear with them. With every passing minute, the desire to escape grew as strong as my disappointment in this failed and downright stupid endeavor. My legs carried me back towards the village, even though every cell in my body screamed that nothing good awaited me there. The forest I thought would save me turned out to be as empty as my stupid plan. What did I expect? That the Leshy would step out from behind a bush, pat me on the shoulder, and say, "Don't worry, pal, I'll take care of your debts"? Ridiculous. Even if such tales made sense, I clearly wasn't their hero. Great stroll, Lyoka, I thought, mentally tallying all the mistakes that had brought me here. My head throbbed and my thoughts raced, offering no clear solutions. The village was surely waiting for me. Those guys never left loose ends, and I looked like the loosest one. Damn it. I couldn't even hide properly. Now there was only one thing left. Go back and hope they'd at least hear me out before finishing me off. After some time pushing through thick bushes, I emerged onto a small clearing not far from the village. Oh no. Who would have doubted? I smirked, staring at the nasty faces that had apparently been waiting for me all night. A desperate urge to retreat back into the thicket flashed through me, but it was too late. They'd spotted me. Foeman raised his head and stared straight at me. Good morning, Alyosha. Foeman began with a nasty smirk. What? Couldn't hide? More than trudging through the forest, I was fed up with explaining myself to them. Couldn't. I replied indifferently. Are you stupid? Foeman raised his voice, clearly infuriated by my misplaced calm. We trusted you, and you screwed us over. Where's the stuff, Alyosha? Foeman, seriously, listen, I don't have your drugs. You're pressuring the wrong guy. Instead of hassling me here, you should be looking for those bastards who stole your stuff from me. I remember what they look like. I remember their car. Maybe you should get to... Shut up! Foeman didn't let me finish. You really think you can screw us over? Asking you one last time, where the hell is my stuff? I've got nothing! I lost it. All the rage and fear compressed into one move. The knife was suddenly in my hand. Oh, that's right, we... Oh. Oh, no. Foeman, are you okay? Oh, no. Where the hell did this asshole get a knife? Get in the car. Let's get out of here. I lay in the dirt, feeling the ground beneath me grow colder. The sky loomed gray like dirty glass, and all I could do was stare at it as the pain began to fade. Everything flashed before my eyes. Noisy days, random faces, big and stupid plans. It all seemed so pathetic now. To trade a life for a couple of fuck-ups, someone would probably find it funny. I'd laugh too if it weren't for the burning cold that had already reached my chest. Yeah, sad. My life was fading away, pooling with my blood on this cursed clearing. Darkness finally consumed me. The last thing left was the heavy silence of the forest reclaiming its place. Damn. I totally forgot we had the knife still because we didn't help the wolf. We didn't help the wolf out. The end. Gallery. All right, that's 2. 4 more to go. I don't really know where to start either. Dang, I didn't make any new save files. Okay, one thing that I do think would be smart is what if we open the trap, then we eat it. No, then we don't eat it. Huh? Anything different there? So we freed the wolf, but we didn't eat the mushroom. We come to the clearing. Oh! Oh! Shit, where did this mutt come from? Hell if I know, Foreman, are you okay? Pretty shitty, bleeding out. Misha, grab the first aid kit from the trunk. And why did you kill this dumbass? We told you we needed to scare him and shake him down for money. What the hell are we supposed to do with him now? Just forget it. We'll leave him here. The animals will finish him. Fine, screw it. Get in the car and let's get the fuck out of here. Damn, so it was different. It was different, but nothing positive came of it. I lay in the dirt, feeling the ground beneath me grow colder. Beside me, the wolf's lifeless body lay still. The sky loomed gray like dirty glass, and all I could do was stare at it as the pain began to fade. Everything flashed before my eyes. Noisy days, random faces, big and stupid plans. It all seemed so pathetic now. Okay, so this is the same ending. There's a wolf. Does this count as a different ending? My life was fading away, pooling with my blood on this cursed clearing. Okay, it's different. It is different. The end. Nice. Okay, so 3 more to go. Okay, so if we come to the wolf without the knife, we just don't have the option to free him. Sorry, friend. I can't help you. Trembling from tension, I muttered aloud and quickly backed away. So it shouldn't matter. Let's see if I eat it this time. Okay, so here's the other thing. Leshy. Let's refuse the Leshy. You're not taking my eye. No, don't come any closer. Cowardly rabbit. Oh! You did not give the eye to the Banebush. Yeah, I mean, it's just going to take more. The eye was probably a pretty worthwhile payment, really. The end. That's 4. 4 out of 6. And I have no idea where to start. Please, tell me. Tell me. Shout it out loud right now. Give me what I need to hear. Oh. There was something with the apples. Hello? Who are you? You mean to tell me this whole time I just wasn't completing the apple thing? I thought I was doing it, but I guess I didn't. Oh! Who was that? A whole new character. I thought I had seen it all. First thing I felt upon regaining consciousness was the worn springs of an old couch digging into my spine. My heart throbbed and my whole body ached, reminding me of the fall from that damned rotten fence. Where am I? The obvious question popped into my head. Oh, creepy doll. A doll on the cupboard stares into your soul with glassy eyes. Its hair is tangled and its dress has faded. Any other doll would look like an innocent toy, but this one, it's as if it's watching. That's because it probably is. An old wooden chair, just looking at it, I could already hear it creaking plaintively. It stands across from the bed as if someone had been sitting there, leisurely sipping tea and watching me while I was unconscious. And a calendar? Calendar with an icon. An old calendar with an icon on the wall, darkened by time and lovingly framed with fabric. The Virgin Mary gazes sternly like a grandmother who always knows when you've done something wrong. Her gaze stirs unease in your soul, as if you're already guilty of something, even though you've done nothing yet. The room was shrouded in semi-darkness, with a sharp, sour scent lingering in the air. Suddenly, the door on the right creaked open with a prolonged groan. Oh, this is a little old lady. Hi! I'm Alexi. I'll try to steal your apples. A short, old woman, a proper granny type, sat down on the chair next to me. She stared directly at me, cautiously, as if trying to peer into my soul. So you've woken up, you loafer, she muttered under her breath with a hint of satisfaction. I thought I'd have to call an ambulance from the city. Where did you drop in from? That fence. From the apple tree, I almost said aloud. Obviously, I couldn't stay silent since I had been trying to steal from her garden and now I was sitting in her house. But telling her I was hiding from criminals would be dumb. She might call the cops on me. I could just say I came to my grandmother's house, or lie and say I'm looking to buy a house here. That's an option. Okay, so same dialogue options, but with her instead of the shopkeeper. Interesting. We'll go with our grandparents' house first. I choked, unable to finish even the first two words. Swallowing hard, I tried to continue. Well, I came to my grandmother's house. Margarita Pavlovna. Have you heard of her? Well, I'll be, she exclaimed, bouncing slightly in her chair. Lyoshenka, is that you? Just the other day you were running around the village as a kid, and now look at you, grown as tall as a tree. Do you still remember Granny Nura? I silently nodded in response, trying to pass as one of the locals, forcing a smile to mask my growing tension. How did she even remember me? It's been so many years. So, what brought you into my garden? Them apples, lady. I wanted to make an excuse, but all I could think about was something about apples. I saw an apple. I thought I'd pluck it and eat it. I replied in a hoarse voice, still trying to pull myself together. Well, well, sneaking around in other people's gardens, huh? Look at you, all obsessed with apples. Rita would have given you a good scolding for that. Just last week, she promised to bake me some pies. Said she'd visit, but something must have come up. Last week? I froze, a cold wave of unease washing over me. Pies? What pies? My grandmother passed away a long time ago. I swallowed hard, tried to convince myself the old lady was just confused. But she sounded so certain, as if there wasn't a shred of doubt in her words. To her, Rita was definitely alive. Maybe it was just senility or something more serious. She wanted to have tea with me and tell stories just like she always does. You know, I just ran into her recently at the store, your Rita. She was standing there waving at me, but I didn't go to her. She seemed odd and not like she used to be. A chill ran down my spine. The old woman looked at me as if she really had seen my grandmother alive recently. At the store? I stammered, repeating her words, feeling a sharp pang in my chest. Yes, at Steppin's store. Where else? She confirmed with a nod. Then suddenly her eyes lit up as if she'd remembered something important. Oh my God! Nura! Listen, Larashinka! Granny Nura leaned toward me with a loud exclamation, making me flinch and step back. Not noticing my tension, she continued. I still have that book of hers. I kept meaning to return it, but never got around to it. Then just give it back, sweetheart, please. Give it to Rita for me. While I struggled to think of how to respond, she had already stood up and started rummaging through an old bookcase. Granny Nura pulled out a small, worn book. She walked over to me and handed it to me with her trembling, bony hands. Here, Lyoshka. I'm just going to say Lyo. I'm pretty sure I'm ruining that every time. Here, Lyo. Pass it on. Tales of Monsters. Interesting. I took the book in my hands and felt time stand still. Crookhag. I recognized it immediately. It was my grandmother's collection of fairy tales with yellowed pages and a worn cover. Grandma used to read it to me often when I was a child. The Crookhag, a tale about a terrifying swamp hag who lured travelers into the rotting bog, disguising herself as a frail old woman with a gaunt face and dull, tearful eyes. She sat at the edge of the path, groaning and sighing, whispering in a raspy voice, "Help me, my dear boys, help me!" In the moment some kind soul reached out to her, the old woman's visage would crumble before their eyes. Dry skin cracked and peeled away in strips, revealing the face of a monster, a twisted grin, rotting teeth, and sharp, beastly claws. I remembered how Grandma told the story in her deep, raspy voice, as if the crook hag herself was lurking in her breath. There was also a story about the Watchone. Watchone? Probably Watchone. A freak with a single crimson eye in the middle of his forehead. Grandma described how he would leap out of the forest. As twilight fell, the branches cracked. The Liko came, its shadow packed. I still remember, I chuckled. There was something about how the Watchone attacked people. Flesh tore into shreds, blood splattered everywhere. You know, the usual gruesome stuff. Grandma knew how to captivate me with another creepy tale, her favorite listener, ensuring I'd have psychological scars. Yeah, these stories were definitely her style. They didn't have much moral or deep meaning. They were just good, old-fashioned creepypastas. Turning a few more pages, I froze. Banebush. That was a well-timed creak. This was my favorite story, maybe because of that childhood incident in the forest. It felt the scariest, the most poignant to me. I closed my eyes, completely consumed by the memory. Oh, we're going back. Grandma Rita. It was a long time ago, so long ago that neither you nor I were even a thought yet. But back then, as now, the forest surrounded our village on all sides, so dark and dense that the branches of its trees formed an impenetrable wall. Light barely penetrated, and the canopies rose so high that sunlight couldn't filter through the leaves. This forest was no ordinary one. They said ancient powers lived here, feared and respected by both people and beasts. Villagers ventured cautiously into the thicket for mushrooms, berries, or firewood, always returning before nightfall. And the children were warned not to wander into the forest alone and to run straight home if anything ever happened. At night, if you listened carefully, you could hear the rustles and faint whispers, as if the forest itself was warning those who ventured too close. And in the very heart of that forest lived the Leshy. Stories say that the master of our forest was always stern, strict, and powerful. He knew every path, every blade of grass, every creature hiding in the dense thickets. He watched over the entire forest through the eyes of the birds. He did not tolerate uninvited guests, and those who dared disturb his peace rarely returned. But the Leshy had someone dear to him. Oh yes, he wasn't always alone. Another wolf, like a wolf cub. He had a granddaughter, Vixie. Oh, and what a sly and swift little fox she was. Oh, it's a fox. Okay, not the same story. People said the little one melted the Leshy's heart, and from then on, the forest became brighter and friendlier under her care. In the form of a fox, she could run through the forest, but when she wished, she turned into a little girl, shedding her fox guise. She grew up under the Leshy's wing, cheerful and lively. She loved the forest, knew all its secret paths like her grandfather, could talk to birds and play with hares. But you know, dear, Vixie was drawn to the village. Even though she grew up in the forest from infancy, her origins were, no matter how you looked at it, human. Oh no, don't tell me this is the girl. This is the girl from the other story. Oh no, that's bad. That's real bad. As soon as she grew a little older, she started begging the Leshy to let her go play with the village children. The Leshy, though strict, gave in eventually. How could he resist his beloved granddaughter? He was reluctant for a long time, but he loved her so much that he eventually agreed. Only sternly commanded, "Be back before sunset." You see, Vixie, though she turned into a girl, would become a fox again as soon as the sun set. So she would run to the village from the forest, introducing herself as a neighbor from another settlement. The boys and girls welcomed her joyfully. She ran around, played with them, and brought mushrooms and berries from the forest to share with everyone. Vixie charmed everyone. Oh, how lively and cheerful she always was. The boys completely lost their heads. They all fell in love with her. That's the scarf. That's the scarf that the Leshy wears, the polka-dotted one. They even gave her a polka-dot scarf. No gift was more precious to her. She treasured it, kept it as if it were her most valuable possession. But one day, after an especially joyful day, Vixie was heading home when suddenly, like a blow to the head, she stopped at the edge of the forest, wanting to adjust her scarf, but it was gone. Her hands trembling, she searched herself, but she couldn't find it. The girl panicked, tears streaming down her face. What a disaster! Without thinking, she ran back to the village, but the sun was already sinking, about to disappear below the horizon. The boys helped her look for the scarf, but it was too late. They found it, but the sun had almost set. Long shadows stretched their claws to the ground, heralding trouble. Vixie darted towards the forest, back to the Leshy's home, but the boys grabbed her by the hand. Don't go, Vixie. At night, evil spirits roam the forest. They'll drag you away, and you'll be lost." She didn't make it back to the forest before sunset. Oh no. Right before the children's eyes, she turned into a fox. Vixie tried to explain herself to them, but people don't understand the language of foxes. Yeah, that checks out. The children were terrified, thinking some forest spirit was tricking them, and fear, Lio, makes the imagination run wild. Oh no. One of them picked up a stone first, then the others followed. They struck her, not realizing what they were doing, their eyes wide like frightened rabbits. Oh no. The Leshy stood at the edge of the forest as usual, listening to the whispers of the night. when suddenly everything fell silent. Nature itself held its breath. He immediately knew something was wrong. His granddaughter had never been gone this long. Worry slithered into his heart like a snake, squeezing it with cold coils. He searched for a long time, inspecting every bush, every path, his heart aching more with each moment of foreboding. And then, oh, what sorrow, at the edge of the forest, beneath a tree, lay Vixie in her fox form, beaten to death. Beside her lay a blood-stained scarf, the very one the boys had given her. The Leshy slowly knelt, looking at her, and a fire of rage ignited in his chest. Oh, God. His heart hardened in an instant, and his body sprouted red branches and roots. In his rage and grief, the Leshy killed everyone who crossed his path. The earth throughout the region was soaked with blood that day, and he retreated to the heart of the forest, hiding among the trees. After that night, the villagers began calling the Leshy Banebush, because no creature more terrifying could be found. God damn. That's a really sad story. Brushing away the haze of memories, I snapped the book shut. The story, though my favorite, always left a heavy feeling. Yes, Granny Nira. I'll make sure to pass it on. Oh, let me pack some apples for you to take with you, she muttered in her creaky voice. Granny Nira moved to the next room with surprising agility for her age. I quietly made my way to the exit, hoping to avoid any attempts to prolong the conversation. Here you go, Lio, and send my regards to Rita. Tell her to visit more often. But first, dear, show me where our what? Granny Nira paused, looking as if she had already forgotten the right words. Say goodbye, point to the sky. Say goodbye. Goodbye, Granny Nira, and thank you. I took the bag of apples from her hands, quickly thanked her for the treat, and hurried towards the exit. What was that all about? Granny Nira clearly has memory issues. It's amazing that she recognized me despite all that. Looking at the bag of apples in my hand, I remembered falling off the rotten fence, and a question suddenly arose. How did the old lady even drag me to the bed? Yeah, well... okay, alright. Let's go back. Let's do this. Point to the sky. I immediately realized what she wanted to hear. Aww, the Big Dipper is over there, Granny Nira, I said confidently, randomly pointing my finger to the sky. Aww. Granny Nira handed me the bag of apples, stretching her wrinkled lips into a toothless smile. Yeah, thank you. I awkwardly thanked her for the treat and quickly left her house. That was sweet. What was that all about? Granny Nira, okay, same. Okay. All right, back on the path. Oh, you know what I just remembered too? We never did this dialogue option. We were honest at first, but let's see if anything changes if we lie. We're looking to buy a house. I choked, unable to finish even the first two words. Swallowing hard, I tried to continue. Well, I'm looking to buy a house in your village. Just looking around, I awkwardly spouted the first story that came to mind. So you want to buy a house, huh? The old woman slapped her knee and visibly tensed. She squinted, her eyes glinting with suspicion. You're a swindler, aren't you? We know your kind. Oh, God. They talk about you on all the channels, how you cheat old folks. She shouted hoarsely, spitting as she spoke. No, I'm not. I tried to explain, but the words caught in my throat. Her gaze grew sharper. Get out of here. I'll call the police right now. That might be a good thing, honestly. The old woman wagged her finger threateningly in the air. No need for the police. Noticing her grip on her cane tighter as she started trembling nervously. Oh, it's very necessary. Look at what you've come up with, and I've heard someone sneaking around at night, too. Her gaze suddenly turned distant, and she fell silent, staring into the void. Or was it me sneaking around? I was ready to just turn around and leave, but she focused on me again. So get out! I'll call the police, got it? I still can... Still can what? She broke off her nervous muttering and froze, staring into the void, and I realized it was time to leave. Well, a nervous chuckle escaped me, slightly easing the tension. What was that? Looks like people out here far from civilization have gone completely wild. I didn't want to go anywhere, but my growling stomach left me no choice. I had to head to the store. It's already getting dark outside. I wonder how long I was out. Hope the store is still open. Okay, so this is also different. I stopped 5 steps away from the store, which looked almost comically. This is the same. Oh, so are we still going to be able to go inside? Maybe we still get to visit with Steppen. Hey, anyone there? The sound of my own voice felt deafening in this silence. Looks like it's closed after all. I didn't want to keep pulling on the handle. Some old man might run out and whack me on the head. Folks here seem a bit tense. Oh, okay, so no store. The point of wandering around the village completely vanished, and listening to the insistent growling of my stomach, I headed home. As I approached my new home, I was already anticipating, okay, this is the same. And now we're going to run into these fellas. In front of my house stood an old, yep, same. But I wonder, maybe Granny will call the police. Oh, wait, this is different. All my anger condensed into one movement. The knife ended up in my hand on its own. Oh no. Is this going to be the same ending though? Damn, FOMO, you okay? This might be the same. It's just now we're not in a field, we're in front of our house? Is this any better? Oh no. That was quick. You died right by the house, not even entering the forest. That's 5 though. Looking to buy a house in your village? Try some different dialogue options maybe. Just looking around, I blurted it out somewhat hesitantly. In our little Rubliavoka. I feel so bad. Steppen joked back immediately. Looks like he fell for it. I smirked in response to his joke and continued the conversation. I've always been curious about how people live in places like this. Simply and kind of genuinely, I guess. Steppen frowned as if he remembered something unpleasant. Do you know anything about our village? Well, aside from the name? I thought for a few seconds, shrugged, and replied, Not really. The scenery here is just so beautiful. Ah, youngsters, as usual, not interested in anything. At least you could have read up online before deciding to buy a house here. I tensed up and raised an eyebrow, not hiding my surprise. All right. Don't get so tense. I was just kidding. You see, our village, it's not a simple place. This land has been through a lot. What do you mean? Well, you know. I don't, Steppen. Well, this is different, though. I haven't seen this before. Life here has always seemed good. Fertile land, a nearby river, and a rich forest. People settled down here for a long time. They lived without troubles, everything seemed fine, but over time they started noticing oddities. You know, behind such tranquility as ours, there's always some kind of eldritch force. People used to say that the forest here is alive, guarding these lands. Supposedly, anyone who comes here with ill intent doesn't live long. I never believed those tales, they're just village legends, but there's one incident I still remember. I was just a little brat back then, barely able to walk. It was near the end of the war. Beasts of men started raiding the village, looting, kidnapping girls, and burning houses. True savages, worse than wolves. If only Stalin were around to deal with these devils. My uncle was just a boy back then, only a little older than me. His name was Ivan. He saw those beasts burn down the neighbor's house and beat the owner to death with a club. That same evening, my uncle told my mother, "I'm heading into the woods, gotta do something about it." What he planned to do, he didn't say. All I remember is the wolf howls around the village didn't stop all night. My uncle never came back. He vanished completely, and so did the bandits. Nobody ever saw them again. It was like the earth swallowed them whole. Naturally, people started whispering that my uncle did something in the woods, and the forest took him. But who really knows? So that's the same story that we got, but kind of like from a different perspective with the wolf and the Leshy, right? For a moment, I zoned out. Processing Stepan's words, they reminded me of something familiar, sending a chill down my spine. Suddenly, I realized my grandmother had told me the same story, disguised as a spooky fairy tale. The hair on my neck stood up. Could it really be true? Yeah, okay, I knew that sounded familiar. So what do you think actually happened? Stepan shrugged thoughtfully. Who the hell knows? Maybe it was wolves, or maybe it was something unnatural. But a similar incident happened not too long ago. A couple of years ago, a family moved here from Moscow. They said they were looking for peace and quiet and tranquility. This is the same story with the children. Okay, so this got us back on the same dialogue path. But all that was new. But you know, Alexei, think twice before buying a house here. There are quieter places in our country. Yeah, no kidding. I murmured thoughtfully, barely shaking my head. I think I've heard enough local tales for today. I really need to focus on figuring out how to solve my own problems. Time to head home. Hold the phone. It can't be. Flashed through my mind, and a conversation with Grandpa in the store surfaced. That same evening, my mom's uncle said, "I'm heading into the woods, gotta do something about it." All night long, wolf howls surrounded the village without stopping. Oh, hold on. I gotta put my other headphone in for this. I've just been clicking and looking for a long time for this thing. People started whispering, saying the uncle did something strange and the forest accepted him. So the forest accepted you, huh? Unexpectedly, I found myself speaking to the wolf. Ivan, it's gonna be all right. Don't panic, okay? I'm from Stepan. I'll get you out of this. Just don't eat me, all right? Oh my god. All right, let me focus. I knew there was something here, man. This is different. Nice. Okay, we freed him. You calmed the black wolf. Nice. Oh my god, I've been looking for something new for so long. When the metallic jaws finally opened with a deafening screech, the wolf pulled its bleeding paw closer. It immediately, as if following a call, trudged into the forest thicket. Oh, that's a cool shot. For a moment, the wolf turned and froze, staring at me. I froze in response. Oh, it bowed. To you too. All right, before we proceed, I've just been like literally probably an hour and a half of just clicking through the story, going through different dialogue options. I kept coming back to that wolf, and I knew there had to be something to do with that wolf. We had grandmother telling us the story originally that involved the wolf, and then Steppen told us the story also about the wolf, and every time I freed him, he chased after us, every single time. But there was a sequence to the interaction. You had to fail the first time after talking to Steppen to know the backstory about the wolf. That one took me a long time to figure out. After the wolf disappeared among the trees, I waited a few minutes and then headed in the same direction. I wonder if this is going to be different now with the Leshy at the end then. The adrenaline subsided a bit and my legs began to give way, as if reminding me of the risk I'd taken. What was that? I asked myself, finding no answer. I tried to understand myself and my actions. After all, risking my life for a wolf that could have torn me apart was madness. But if for a moment I assumed it was the Leshy's familiar, the risk seemed justified. Fear still gripped me, but deep inside I felt a flicker of pride for what I had done. You should, Alexei. That was good. I was tired. My steps grew clumsy and my thoughts tangled like the interwoven branches above, but I kept walking. Okay, so we're back here. This is the same. We're going to have the same options. Okay, now we utilize our save function. So, let's go with it, right? We saved his familiar. Now he's offering us a mushroom. Let's not be rude now. Maybe we get to meet him and he'll be like, hey man, dab me up. Thanks for saving my dog. That's really cool. Now you're my dog. I don't know. All right, here we go. Tripping balls. Okay, this is the same. Maybe if I go along with him, maybe he'll help me in a way that doesn't make me look like a murderous lunatic. I don't know. Honestly, maybe I should have refused him actually, and then the dog would have saved me. I don't know. Let's just see if this does anything. So, yep, this is the same. I'm still losing my eye. This is different. I couldn't make a sound and was about to nod in agreement, but suddenly the oppressive silence was pierced by a wolf's howl. Yes! The Leshy turned sharply towards it. The wolf, the huge black beast I had freed from the trap, emerged from the thicket. His eyes gleamed in the dim light. He slowly approached and stood between me and the Leshy. He's protecting us, I hope. The moment stretched on like an eternity. I watched as the two beings conducted their silent dialogue. Without words or unnecessary movements, it was as if they were reading each other's thoughts. The Leshy turned away from the wolf and stared at me. His gaze was so heavy, I felt as if I were nailed to the ground. You have helped the forest. Consider that the forest has accepted you. Now serve it. The Leshy's words sounded like a command. It felt as though the entire forest had heard him. You will become a raven, carrying my will. What? Oh, so he's transforming us. I guess kind of like what happened to the wolf, right? Because that's what happened to the boy. The guy came into the forest. He asked Leshy for help. He said yes, and then in turn, he served him as a wolf. So same thing for me, though? Oh, man. But I'm not a wolf. I'm going to serve him as a raven. Interesting. The pain was unbearable. The bones of my skull crunched, stretching my face. My jaws clenched, turning into a hard beak. My skin split apart and black patches of feathers emerged. My arms, breaking from within, stretched into wings, heavy and wet with clotted blood. My legs cracked as they twisted into thin bird claws, which immediately dug into the ground with their talons. My body became light, but it didn't feel alien to me. The world had changed. I became something else, broken and reborn. All the sounds around me faded, leaving only a commanding voice in my head, the voice of the master. Let your flight be filled with fury. Let your cries echo over my forest. Let them reach the ears of those who doomed you to this. Let their blood merge with the earth. The night was dark and ominously quiet. My wings glistened in the moonlight as I circled above Foeman's gang, entrenched near the village. Below, in the shadows of the trees, the wolf crept towards them, still limping from the trap. Tonight, every creature will pay for their sins. The wolf struck first, swiftly, mercilessly. His fangs sank into one's throat, blood sprayed in a fountain soaking the ground. Terror seized the others before they realized their comrade was already dead. Relishing their screams, I dove down. My talons found their mark, sinking into a thug's face. His piercing scream filled me with satisfaction. He tried to fight back, but I was faster, more agile. My beak gouged out his eyes. My claws scraped skin down to the bone, leaving deep gashes. Their bodies fell to the ground, generously feeding it with blood. Panting heavily, I perched on the branch of an old oak. The wolf silently approached me. These creatures are dead. Their sins will rest with them. Let the forest remember this night. Let the darkness remember that I will always be here. Let anyone who dares disturb this place know that it is ruled by Tavarak and his loyal servants. Faithful servant, you have become a dark servant of the forest. That's it. That's all the endings. Damn, and what a wild and twisted one that was. And just as a callback, the very first thing you see when you come to the village is a raven. It's a crow. Like, you're met face to face with it, and you say you stare at it blankly, like neither of you willing to move. That's such an interesting, like, foreshadowing, I guess, now having that ending. Man, that was really good. I think that was probably my favorite ending, just because the raw, like, visceral experience at the end of becoming one with the forest and serving the Leshy. That was just a cool cinematic ending there, and way less human than all the other ones. Like, rather than going psychotic and on a murderous rampage and ending up in the hospital, or literally 1, 2, 3, 4 of them are just us dying in different ways. So at least this one we found maybe a new purpose. I know it seems like that's kind of why we came to the village, is to find a purpose and to kind of realize that what we had been doing was wrong. And this is not only a fitting punishment, but also a resolution to our problem. I have lived a life of negativity. I've brought so much sorrow and pain to other people, coming to terms with the fact that I'm like a horrible person, and giving ourselves to the forest. And in turn, we also get our problem dealt with, which is the thugs that were after us. That was fun. It was super well written. The art style was phenomenal. I loved the eerie, the creepy, like dark, shadowy faces of the people, of the Leshy, of all the forested creatures. Really, really fun. I had an awesome time with that. Thank you so much for watching. If you enjoyed the video, leave it a like. Comment down below which of these endings was your favorite. Leave me any suggestions for future content, or just some feedback. If you enjoyed the video, consider subscribing. Thank you so much for watching, and until next time, see ya.